Hey guys, in this video I want to give you some helpful herbs and other natural things you can do to enhance erectile function. So this video is being made based on a frequently asked question. With a large portion of our subscribers being males, one of the major questions we get is, how can I improve sexual function, or specifically erectile function? And this question comes to me at no surprise. In fact, 40 to 50% of men over the age of 35 suffer from some degree of erectile dysfunction. And the real problem here is not, in my opinion, in the sexual performance or the lack thereof, but the fact that your sexual reproductive system, your sexual health, your sexual drive is one of the key signposts of good overall health. So I suspect that most men coming to me with this problem, or most men concerned about this problem, is not just the lack of sexual activity or sexual health or engagement, as much as it is maybe an internal knowing that something is ultimately wrong with their health. When you start to dive into the pathology of erectile dysfunction, as we will in the later part of this video, you come to find major hormonal imbalances in an overly active sympathetic nervous system, or a chronic state of stress, which is going to result in not just sexual dysfunction and erectile dysfunction, but chronic fatigue, low energy, and a lack of overall zest and drive for life. So this isn't just a sexual dysfunction issue. This is a dysfunction or imbalance of overall health. So by diving into the physiology, as we will in the video, of what makes an erection, what goes wrong, we're going to have major helpful clues as how to correct this imbalance at the root, and not just improve erectile dysfunction and enhance your sexual function, your sexual drive, your sexual vigor, but you're going to improve your overall health and your overall energy. Now, one of the first things I want to do with you is discuss some of the physiology of an erection. What makes your body produce an erection? This is incredibly important for us to understand, because once we figure this out, we'll be able to spot where things go wrong, and therefore what we can do to correct the imbalances involved in erectile dysfunction, sexual dysfunction, etc. So at basic, as you probably could imagine, one of the key factors in a healthy erection is the healthy supply of blood flow to the penile shaft. And of course, maintaining that supply of blood flow to maintain the erection. Now, the question is, though, that many people overlook is, what's responsible for healthy supply of blood, or what's governing the circulatory system? Now, ultimately, this is going to trace back to the nervous system and all of the hormones and chemicals involved in whatever central nervous system state that you're in, be it a sympathetic state or a parasympathetic state. And it's also going to have a lot to do with your thyroid. You see, your thyroid gland is what is responsible for dictating the rate of your heart and your pulse rate. And as you probably know, your heart pumps your blood. However, under hypothyroidism, when the thyroid's suboptimal and is sluggish, your resting pulse rate or heart rate decreases, therefore decreasing the supply of blood and the rate or quality of your circulatory system, which is why people who have hypothyroidism are often cold intolerant, they have cold hands and feet, etc. However, in order to correct this problem of poor blood supply to the penile shaft, we need to ultimately correct hypothyroidism, or at least a chronic state of stress that could be down-regulating the thyroid, while also looking at the major role that the nervous system has in producing a healthy erection or not. So to put this into the simplest of terms as possible, you have two branches of your central nervous system. You have a sympathetic state, and the word sympathy literally means same suffering. Sym means same, pathy is derived of the Greek word pathos, meaning to suffer. And looking at the terminology or the language, this is activated anytime you're in a state of suffering. So anytime you're stressed out or in a state of suffering, you enter a sympathetic state. And then you have your parasympathetic state, which basically means below or above suffering. So you're not in a state of suffering. And this is referred to as your rest or digest part of your nervous system. And your penis, being an organ, is directly affected, of course, through the circulatory system by the activation of either one of these nervous systems. And at basic, when you are in a state of sympathy or a sympathetic state, you're in a stressed out state, all of the chemicals and hormones involved in this sympathetic state directly oppose the androgenic hormones that you would need otherwise to have a healthy circulatory system, and also all of the androgenic sex hormones responsible for producing an erection. So in even simpler terms, stress, when you are stressed out, is the greatest killer of your sex drive. Again, and this has a lot to do with all of the stress hormones and chemicals that oppose the production of androgen sex hormones. An even simpler way to look at this is when your body is in a sympathetic state, it's perceiving the stress as a life-threatening situation. So your biology doesn't know whether or not you're just stressed out because you lost your girlfriend, because you don't like your job, because you think you're ugly, or something futile, or if you're about to die. It pretty much perceives that stress in a very similar fashion, at least chemically speaking. So put it like this, if you're in a life-threatening state, the last thing that your body is really thinking of is sex or reproduction. It's just thinking of survival. So it typically opposes all of those sex chemicals, the sex steroids and hormones, just to try to cope with the stress and survive. So that's sort of a philosophical way or metaphorical way of looking at how the sympathetic nervous system suppresses the hormones necessary for a healthy sex drive and erection. So ultimately, to produce a healthy erection, you need to disengage from the stress state and be in a more parasympathetic state, this rest and digest, or this relaxed central nervous system state. And this is because in a parasympathetic nervous system state, your body is able to relax. The smooth muscle in the endothelium in your penile shaft and in your whole body, it relaxes. In fact, the parasympathetic nervous system promotes the reduction of intracellular calcium, which allows the smooth muscle tissue to relax. When you're in a more sympathetic state, there's an increased amount of intracellular calcium, which makes your tissues more rigid and unable to relax. So ultimately, the parasympathetic nervous system, through a variety and a cascade of chemical reactions, is allowing the muscle tissue to relax, which is allowing the blood flow to go in. Not to mention, in a parasympathetic state, you don't have any of the opposing stress chemicals that would downregulate your thyroid. So you have more relaxed, smooth muscle tissue, and you have a more optimal functioning thyroid, which allows the blood flow to get into that relaxed muscle. So ultimately what you need, again, for a healthy erection is you just need to relax and chill. So you can do this through a variety of different mechanisms, and I want to give you a few helpful tips. So other than just generally trying to be in a relaxed state of mind, not letting fear, anxiety, sexual performance, or whatever other thoughts creep into your mind that would activate the sympathetic nervous system and kill your erection and kill your sex drive, there's a few different things you can do lifestyle-wise. There's some helpful herbal supplements, etc., that can directly support this parasympathetic state and the chemical processes you need for a healthy erection. So one thing that could be incredibly helpful for inducing this more parasympathetic state, biologically at least, something as simple as increasing your intake of dietary choline could be incredibly helpful. Now, choline is an important precursor to the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, which is an incredibly important neurotransmitter for memory, the regulation of your mood, muscle control, including the smooth muscle tissue, and plays a variety of important roles in proper brain and cognitive functions as well as nervous system functions, which is going to have a positive effect on erectile function, as we learned earlier. Now, the basic way that acetylcholine specifically helps with erectile function or the production of an erection is by mediating the parasympathetic nerves that are responsible for the relaxation of the smooth muscle tissue. So again, remember, if that smooth muscle is constricted and contracted, it can't get proper blood flow into it. So again, ensuring this parasympathetic state is essential for making sure that the muscle tissue in the penis is relaxed and open to receiving blood flow. Now, acetylcholine works by basically binding with the parasympathetic nerve receptors in the endothelium of the penis, which again allows it to relax and uptake blood. Additionally, as acetylcholine binds with these parasympathetic nerve receptors in the endothelium, it also stimulates the synthesis of nitric oxide, which is important for allowing the proper blood flow to get into that smooth muscle tissue. Not to mention, through both of these processes, the calcium channels to the smooth muscle tissue in the endothelium and the cells in the penile shaft are blocked off, which, as we learned, is important for the proper relaxation of the smooth muscle. So in fewer words, acetylcholine stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which activates the nitric oxide pathways in a variety of neurochemical cascades responsible for the relaxation of the smooth muscle in the penis. So again, something as simple as increasing your dietary choline to promote a more parasympathetic state is going to be very helpful for ensuring the proper physiological mechanisms for ensuring a proper erection. Some of the best sources of dietary choline include egg yolks, grass-fed beef liver, as well as poultry. My second tip for you for maintaining or ensuring a healthy erection is going to be lowering the chronic production or elevated levels of prolactin. Now, there are a variety of different ways in which elevated prolactin levels can attribute to decreased erectile function. First and foremost, prolactin opposes thyroid hormone. And as we learned, we need high functioning thyroid to ensure a high pulse rate and heart rate for proper blood flow. Also, when prolactin increases, parathyroid increases, which increases intracellular calcium intake, which is going to result in that constricted smooth muscle tissue, which will inhibit proper blood flow to the penis. Not to mention that prolactin interferes with the release of gonadotropin release hormone, and as we discussed in the video on ashwagandha and testosterone, this gonadotropin release hormone is an essential precursor to progesterone and testosterone. So in other words, prolactin not only opposes thyroid hormone, it's going to cause a deficiency in progesterone and testosterone, which could directly attribute to erectile dysfunction and the inability to maintain an erection. Because in addition to being in a parasympathetic relaxed state, which ensures proper thyroid function and proper circulatory function, we also need these androgenic sex steroids and hormones like progesterone, testosterone, to ensure proper erection and sexual function. In fact, there's even research that shows that just trying to increase testosterone levels without addressing elevated prolactin levels does not efficiently or effectively handle erectile function. However, by reducing elevated prolactin levels, it's been found that testosterone levels tend to rise and go back to normal ranges, and it corrects erectile dysfunction. So one of the major things you can do to correct erectile dysfunction is not just try to increase testosterone, you're going to want to lower prolactin, the opposing hormone. Fortunately, there are a variety of ways that you can do this. Dietary zinc, which is most abundant in Polyrhacus black ant, oysters, and beef liver, lowers prolactin levels up to 50%. Other herbs like ashwagandha and mucuna are clinically proven to lower prolactin levels. And as I discussed in an earlier video, ashwagandha not only lowers prolactin, it increases testosterone, it increases progesterone and the gonadotropin hormone, and is clinically proven to improve and enhance sexual function in men and women. So ashwagandha is a great herb for lowering the prolactin and correcting a lot of the hormonal imbalances involved in erectile problems, and it can be helpful for enhancing erectile function. My third and final tip for you would be to utilize the anti-stress effects of adaptogenic herbs. So if you've taken anything away from this video, stress is the major killer of a healthy sex drive and a healthy erection. So as always, in addition to addressing other lifestyle stressors, psychological stress, you can utilize adaptogenic herbs to lower the production of stress chemicals and also shift your nervous system from a sympathetic state to a more parasympathetic state, which will reduce intracellular calcium and promote the proper relaxation of the smooth muscle in the penis, amongst having many other additional health benefits. So something as simple as adaptogenic herbs for activating the parasympathetic nervous system so you can relax and so you can open up to receiving that blood flow is going to be very helpful. Now, some of the best herbs for achieving this are going to be herbs like holy basil, astragalus, ginseng, and also ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is going to be a great herb for correcting pretty much all of the imbalances that we talked about today, so I'd highly recommend looking into that herb. So in addition to everything I mentioned here today, I'd also highly recommend watching the videos that we've made on the herbs Shistanch and Semen Cascadi. These are two powerful sexual tonic herbs that, in a variety of other mechanisms, which I talk about in those videos, could enhance overall sexual function and erectile function. So in addition to all these tips, I would highly recommend looking into those two herbs as well. However, that does bring this video to a close. So if you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for future videos, and if you're interested in supplementing with the wide variety of herbs that I talked about here today in this video, you can find all of those on our tonic herb shop in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.